This is RNZ Pacific News. I'm Koroi Hawkins. The leader of the parliamentary opposition group in Samoa is calling on the government to address public concerns about New Zealand increasing its visa fees. Told local media there is deep frustration within the Samoan community regarding the substantial fee hike scheduled to come into effect in October. He says the increased costs are a significant burden and will exacerbate delays already plaguing the visa application process. However, despite Tuilaipa's concerns, the New Zealand government says its ongoing commitment to supporting its Pacific neighbours will see the continuation of subsidised fees for visa applicants from Pacific countries. At the midway point in the Kiribati election, it appears the newcomers to Parliament could hold significant sway. This follows the first round of voting on Wednesday. RNZ Pacific's correspondent in Tarawa, Rimon, says in results so far, the ruling TKP party of incumbent President Agnes Mamau appears to have taken most of the outer island seats, but it's a tighter contest for many of the urban seats that will go to the second round on Monday. Rimon says independents are likely to be a factor.
Because a lot of them are appearing in the results. And so if they all form up as opposition, then, that'll be a fair fight. Otherwise, it could replicate what we've seen in the previous House, where TKP really had the majority. And so, I think that this can be all confirmed ultimately when the general election is concluded next week.
The leaders of Australia and New Zealand are doubling down on their commitment to a united Pacific. Following a meeting in Canberra, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon say the success of their respective nations is tied to the region's strength. The leaders said the Pacific is strongest when it works together and renewed their pledge to support the Pacific Islands Forum and its 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent. Both leaders highlighted their preference for Pacific-led regional security and backed the Pacific Policing Initiative. And they acknowledged the position of regional leaders that climate change is the single greatest threat to Pacific peoples. The Fiji government says the country will host a new $200 million Fijian Google data center soon. This was announced by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Trade, Kamikamiva, in an interview with Fiji News this week. As well as the data center, Kamikamiva says Google will install 4 new submarine internet cable connections in Fiji. The chair of Vanuatu's Business Resilience Council says increased international flights will boost the tourism sector after the demise of its national carrier. Mahbash Ikram reports.
Solomon Airlines has announced a new direct flight from Auckland to Vanuatu's Espiritu Santo Island. Chairperson of the Vanuatu Business Resilience Council, Jen Craig, says this will give the Pacific nation a much-needed stimulus.
As the tourism sector gets confidence again in Australia and New Zealand, still in the destination, that there's proper, real, substantial airlines flying in, we'll see numbers increase and flights increase. So, it's looking pretty positive for next year.
Currently, Solomon Airlines and Fiji Airways are the only airlines that have flights from New Zealand.
Solomon Airlines, yes, it's good that you predominantly find that they're carrying seasonal worker traffic. I think the big saviours obviously being Qantas and Jetstar announcing that they'll start flying next month in September. And Virgin immediately went from 3 flights a week to 7 flights a week, which puts us on a level pegging with our competitors in Samoa and Fiji.
Graham Craig says tourism will not be fully back on its feet until the government finds a solution to domestic flights. Vanuatu was placed into liquidation in May and is only now starting to get back on its feet, offering scheduled domestic charter flights. Fiji's Education Minister is arranging a special meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister to discuss how to assist in the settlement of issues at the University of the South Pacific. This comes just 2 days after the university's staff association ran a secret ballot to go on strike in a bid to remove Vice-Chancellor Paul Aluwalia. Aseri Randrondro told SBC News that while he's not aware of all the details yet, the government is looking to mediate the disputes, which include serious governance concerns and allegations of unfair dismissal. He says government is maintaining their position that they will not directly interfere and this meeting is aimed at deliberating on a way forward. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the country's thoughts are with Turkey as fires burn on the Gallipoli Peninsula, threatening war cemeteries and monuments. Helicopters with monsoon buckets and ground crews have been battling the blaze since earlier this week, including the major commemoration sites of the First World War battles fought there. Mr. Albanese says it is sacred ground.
Our thoughts today are with those who continue to care for those cemeteries as they endure these difficult times.
Meanwhile, Turkey's government says the outlook is positive for the firefighting efforts. It says 45 planes and helicopters, along with some 1,400 forestry personnel, are involved in trying to contain the wildfires raging in 3 provinces. The World Health Organization says it fears the lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic might not be applied to the spread of the new Mpox strain outside Africa. The WHO warned the world risks repeating earlier mistakes. The BBC's Imogen Folks reports.
Later today, we're expecting them to issue recommendations for countries to deal with this health emergency of international concern. But we did hear from the Red Cross this morning, and one of the things they are emphasizing is for countries in Europe, be happy that Sweden was so quick to identify this case and tell us all about it. And the other thing is, be generous. It's the wealthy countries that have the stockpiles of vaccine. This is not COVID. We know what this disease is. We have a vaccine, we have treatments. Don't make the mistake of COVID and stockpile vaccines that you don't have to destroy when you could have shared them to countries that need them.
In sport, the Oceania Football Confederation's first ever futsal Women's Nations Cup that's underway today in the Solomon Islands. 5 nations will compete at the Friendship Hall in Honiara, with not only the trophy up for grabs, but also a place at the inaugural FIFA Futsal Women's World Cup to be held in the Philippines next year. IC Media report it's a major step forward in the development of women's futsal in the Pacific region. Taking to the court alongside the hosts are Fiji, New Zealand, Tahiti, Samoa and Tonga. The opening match between New Zealand and Tonga kicks off at 3:45 p.m. local time. The weather looks as if it'll do the All Blacks no favours as they look to bounce back from their shock loss to Argentina last weekend when the two sides square off in the second test at Eden Park tonight. The All Blacks will attempt to extend their unbeaten run at Eden Park to 50 tests, but with showers forecast, Coach Scott Robertson is preparing the side for wet weather rugby.
I've gone for a few combinations kept together and also a little bit of experience in there, what we think for this weekend, what we need for this weekend, especially with a bit of wet weather coming.
That's the sport from RNZ Pacific. There's more on our website, rnzi.com. Hello to the one folks, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific, and Corey Hawkins. Coming up, it's proven to be a tight race for urban seats in the Kiribati auction.
It's very difficult to say because there is either side that are competing in the deal.
Also, Pacific leaders are seeking freer movement of people between countries in the region. And later on,
It has been challenging because our culture is very different from the Tongan, very different from the Maori.
a research vessel crew entirely by Pacific women has arrived in time from Preliminary election results in Kiribati are showing close contests for constituencies in and around the capital, Tarawa, the opposite in Outer Island electorates. Radio Kiribati is among those reportedly retaining their seats in interim results are the incumbent president, Anies Maumau, in Onapua, and the opposition leader, Tesi Erialambo, in Apemama. 6 MPs from the last parliament, including 1 cabinet minister, are reported to have lost their seats so far. An elected council official on Tarawa, Ege Paroa, says most seats in the capital look likely to go to the runoff round on Monday, with no candidates clearing the 50% threshold for an outright win.
Whereas in the Outer Island, they kind of already completed now. But on Tarawa, it's very difficult to say because there is either side that are competing still. So